Hello, BookTube. I want to do a bunch of check-in videos this weekend for various BookTube events. Make sure that you know that I know they're out there. But this has been a very full day, very wonderful, wonderful full day. It's been beautiful, first of all, but also just one of those days that just feels right from beginning to end. And that's terrific. I don't know how much of that is simply that I am on Saturdays relieved of my onerous ball and chain of my producer at CPL Radio Book of the Day. It could be that I'm just that weight is lifted from me. But it's been wonderful. But I ran into a problem that I've mentioned on this channel a few times, which is that Hyde Cottage eats light. It just eats light. You can have lights on everywhere, and the shadows just take over. I myself find that charming. I'm not complaining about it under normal circumstances, but a lot of the stuff that I want to show you in BookTube catch-up videos involves me showing you things, and I don't have the technical ability to put a picture on the screen, and I'm losing the light to do that with a backlit piece of technology. So a lot of the rest of those catch-up videos are going to have to wait until tomorrow. I've got, I think, 3 of them still to do. They're going to have to wait until tomorrow through lighting issues. But I've got physical books as well. I've got another new book video. I don't quite know what to call these. It's not a mail haul because I've called them things a mail haul for 7 years now where I was opening packages on camera, and that's not this. These are new books. These are new arrivals. Maybe that's what I'll call it, new arrivals. But I want to show them to you and talk about them a little, and I think they'll fare better than backlit technology in terms of being able to see. So the first one we'll look at here is from August. This is the latest book that I have now. This is by Kara Fitzpatrick, and it is called The Death of Public School: How Conservatives Won the War Over Education in America. See, that looks a lot better than an iPad does at this point. So this comes out in August. Thought you'd want to know about all of these things. And apparently, Kara Fitzpatrick won the Pulitzer Prize for local reporting in 2016. Very impressive. Let's see what this is. America has relied on public schools for 150 years, but the system is increasingly under attack. With declining enrollment and diminished trust in public education, policies that steer tax dollars into private schools have grown rapidly. Yes, indeed. You are looking at the last generation that will see public schools in America. To understand how we got here, this book argues we must look back at the turbulent history of school choice. The author uncovers the long journey of school choice, a story full of fascinating people and strange political alliances. She shows how school choice evolved from a segregationist tool in the South in the 1950s to a policy embraced by advocates of educational equity in the North, to a conservative strategy for securing government funds for private schools in the 21st century. As a result, education is poised to become a private commodity rather than a universal good. And that was the whole point of public schools 150 years ago, was that if education becomes a perquisite of the wealthy, then we create a permanent underclass in America. And we can't do that. That was the same thinking that was behind later than 150 years ago, but the same thing that was behind so-called entitlement programs, retirement programs. We can't have retirees becoming a permanent economic underclass. We have to be better than that as a society. We will hurt ourselves if we do that. And that idea is going away in favor of screw you if you're not rich. All I want is to be rich. All I want is for my kids to be rich. And if they're not rich, screw them. So I don't think your grandchildren, I don't think, will grow up in America that has public schools, that are publicly funded. I don't think that will happen. This book makes me curious to know what you think. A lot of you are in a position to be on the front lines of the subject of public schools versus private schools, and what might be happening at your school board meetings. I'd love to hear about it. Feel free, sound off in the comments or email me. Then this next one is by Julia Fine. It's a historical novel. This is from June. This comes out in June. It's called Madalena and the Dark. The advanced copy bar up at the top there. That's kind of rare. Usually that doesn't happen, because if you put the advanced copy bar up there saying that it's an advanced copy, that's something you have to remove when you make the finished copy. That's extra work. So it usually doesn't happen. I don't have a sheet for this either, but let's see what we have here. The cover copy, keep in mind that's not the book, says that this is for fans of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and Mexican Gothic, and I wasn't a fan of either one of those, so I'm hoping that I'm going to please other people as well. The setting here is Venice in 1717, so it's a Venice novel. That makes up a lot of ground right there. Before she meets Madalena, 15-year-old Luisa has only wanted one thing: to be the best at violin. As a student at the Hospital della Pietà, she hopes to join the highest ranks of its illustrious girls' orchestra and to be no longer just an orphan, but a star, protege to the great Antonio Vivaldi. You knew he was going to make an appearance given the time and the place. Luisa is good at violin, but she is not the best. She has peers, but she does not have friends, until Madalena. Sent to the Pietà to be reformed until the rumors about her noble family have passed, Madalena is unlike anyone Luisa has met. Clever, reckless, and passionate, Madalena can promise the world to Luisa, and when she does, their fates intertwine. But Madalena has made a wager with something deep in the waters of Venice, and there will be a price to pay. Venetian historical fiction. I think I've read probably 6 works of Venetian historical fiction in the last 10 years that had Vivaldi as a main character. I don't mind at all. Not in the slightest. Then this next one, when is this thing? This is September. Okay, we have an even later candidate. This is coming out in September. Think this is probably going to get massively reviewed. This is by Nelson Lichtenstein and Judith Stein, and it is called A Fabulous Failure: The Clinton Presidency and the Transformation of American Capitalism. I think this is going to get reviewed everywhere. But let's see what this is about. When Bill Clinton was elected president in 1992, he ended 12 years of Republican rule and seemed poised to enact a progressive transformation of the U.S. economy, touching everything from health care to trade to labor relations. I don't know who he seemed poised to do that to. Maybe there were some people in the country who did. It certainly didn't seem that way to me. I know a conservative getting elected to government when I see one. Thanks very much. Yet by the time he left office, the nation's economic and social policies had instead lurched dramatically rightward, exacerbating the inequalities so troubling in our time. This book reveals why Clinton's expansive agenda was a fabulous failure and why its demise still haunts us today. Okay. Fabulous failure implies that its lurch to the rightward was an accident, that was the result of failing, and not the plan all along. It'll be interesting to see. We'll see. Nelson Lichtenstein and Judith Stein, however, show how the administration's progressive reformers, people like Robert Reich, Ira Messinger, and Laura Tyson, and Joseph Stiglitz, were stymied by a new world of global capitalism that heightened Wall Street influence, undermined domestic manufacturing, and eviscerated the labor movement. The victims? Is that what you're saying? That the Clinton administration were victims? They were stymied by these things? Oh my God. Oh my God. Somewhere, David Murphy is commencing to pull his hair out. Maybe I should get him to review this. Let's see here. Meanwhile, Robert Rubin, Larry Summers, I knew his name was going to come up, and Al Gore proved champions of this financialized world. Meanwhile, Clinton divided his own party when he relied on Republican votes to overhaul welfare, liberalize trade, and deregulate the banking and telecommunications industries. Even the economic boom Clinton ushered in, which tamed unemployment and sent the stock market soaring in what Alan Blinder and Janet Yellen termed a fabulous decade, ended with a series of exploding asset bubbles that his neoliberal economic advisors neither foresaw nor prevented. Yeah, I think David Murphy needs to read this book. Half of you don't know who I'm talking about. He used to be a booktuber. He's still alive, I suppose. An approximation thereof. This book is a study of ideas in action, some powerfully persuasive, others illusory and self-defeating. It explains how and why the Clinton presidency's progressive statecraft floundered in a world where the labor movement was weak, civil rights forces quiescent, and corporate America ever more powerful. What on earth? It actually does sound like this book is going to paint Clinton as a victim. Floundered. That sentence makes it sound like corporate America was different from Clinton administration. Like there were two separate things, one of which was stymieing the other. What? All right, it's not David Murphy anymore. It's now Clifford Hitchens who's spinning in his grave. Well, we'll see. That's the whole point of books like this. That's why I love them, is because the pub sheet might annoy me, might get my blood pressure up. It's going to be up to the book to convince me, one way or the other. And that, I think, is why this is going to get reviewed everywhere. I think people aren't going to be able to stop talking about it. Uh, and then we'll finish up with two books that aren't going to get anybody's blood pressure up. These are wonderful, absolutely wonderful. The first one is from, are they both from Princeton? Yeah, they both are. They're both from Princeton. These are nature guides. Princeton does nature guides, and they are so good. I want my own nature guide to be intact here. I want you to be able to see the bean. But the first one is Snakes of the World. This is by Mark O'Shea. I think I've shown you this already. This is the physical copy of Snakes of the World, A Guide to Every Family, which is just one thing I can't show you in an e-copy. This is all that you want to know about these things. Their location, their distribution, their environmental status, how endangered are they, and great photos. See, you're going to get the distribution map there of where they can be found and what their conservation status is. These Princeton guides are great. I have a whole shelf of them. And this one is finally about snakes. This is going to be a little bit of a mixed bag for me in terms of reading, because these things they're evolutionary fascinating. The cold-bred snakes are absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure a lot of their physiological details will be fascinating as well, but I'm extremely personally familiar with one physiological detail in particular, which is their venom. I have been bitten by a huge number of these creatures. A huge number of them. Where either I was at fault, because I was scrabbling up, a bunch of scree in Arizona or Utah, and put my hand inside a crevice on top of a sleeping rattlesnake, or I wasn't at fault. In India, for instance, where snakes will sometimes, out of territoriality or whatever, although rattlesnakes in America will do this too, will just come after you. They'll see you and they'll come after you. One way or another, I have been bitten by, I would be willing to bet, more snakes in this book than any other reviewer who is going. I've been willing to bet that most of the people who read this as reviewers will not have been bitten by any snakes. Fortunately, I am largely immune to cytotoxins, which is why I am still here, even though I have been bitten by all of those things. And then the final book that we'll do here is another Princeton Nature Guide. This is The Lives of Beetles, A Natural History of Coleoptera. This is by Arthur Evans, and it's just a gigantic, picture-filled book about beetles. Once again, it will give you all the stuff that the guidebook did. It'll give you their shaded areas of their distribution. It'll give you salient details about what we know about their mating, their life cycle, their all that sort of thing. Beautiful pictures. There, of course, is a dung beetle. You can't get one of these books without a dung beetle. It'll give you beautiful pictures and all the latest natural history information about the bewildering variety of beetles in the world. Just a bewildering variety that led a famous person to quip that if nature resembles its creator, then God has an inordinate fondness for beetles. So there you go. There we have a beetle field guide. We have a snake field guide. These aren't really field guides because you're not supposed to take this in your backpack, but you know what I mean. These are species by species guides to these creatures. Then we have A Fabulous Failure, a study of the economics of the Clinton administration. I have to hope. A lot of mainstream book review venues shy away from academic presses. I'm hoping that Princeton, Harvard, and Yale at least have the cachet so that that isn't true and they'll go wherever. Because I want this book to be reviewed everywhere. I want to read what everybody who has an oar in the water has to say about it. Then Madalena and the Dark. So Louisa's name is not mentioned in the title of this book. It's Madalena and whatever thing in the Venetian waters she has made a deal with. Don't know if that means there'll be an explicitly horror element to this book, but I'm intrigued. Then The Death of Public School. Not a public school, but just the idea of public school. So those are some new arrivals here at Hyde Cottage. Which this kind of video will work, right? You don't actually need to see me open packages on camera. I miss it, but I don't think it needs to be done. And considering the fact that there were 5 other books here that didn't make the cut, 5 other books that I'm simply not going to risk talking about, I think it's probably wise to just keep doing it this way. And I think that might be the day's last video. I hate to say it, but I think it might be. I've got a whole bunch of other things to do, but I have no light. I have no light, and this channel gives you precious little in the way of visuals as it is. I at least want to give you what I can. I think I'll wait. Bright and sunny tomorrow. It's another day in the weekend. We've got plenty of time. I'll just do 10 videos tomorrow, and then we'll be all caught up and ready to go. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.